Well, I was married to the late Judge Lloyd Sullenberger, and he wanted to practice small town law and interviewed at several firms. He was clerking for a Virginia Supreme Court justice at the time. And we came to Orange. We had actually come to Charlottesville for a football game, and I had reunited with some college suite mates, and Lloyd, of course, wanted out of that as soon as he could get, and wandered over to the law school and saw this little 3x5 card on the board saying that Shackelford and Robertson law firm in Orange was looking for a lawyer. And that's how we got here. We were invited for an interview with the firm, and Lloyd interviewed with V. Shackelford and Robbie Robertson, and the inimitable Carol Shackelford took me on a tour of the town and the environs, and then she had us to tea afterwards, and we trotted back to Southwest Virginia where we were living at the time in Tazewell, and they offered him a job within a couple of days. And so we moved here in July.
So what were your first impressions of the town of Orange?
Oh gosh, Phil, it's so long ago. I was pleased to be in a small town. I grew up in Mount Jackson, Virginia, which is just over the mountains, and I liked living in a small town, and I was impressed with Orange. Carol did a great job of showing me around, and it was attractive, not as attractive as it is now, but busy, and I was teaching. I had credentials to teach English, and I managed to get a job in the Orange County school system that year we moved here. So it was a very exciting time. It was an interesting teaching experience. I had come from the public school system in Tazewell County, and where I had over 250 students a day teaching English to 4 different levels. And I can remember being interviewed for the job, and the superintendent, who I guess, and the principal was Mr. Close, I think then, who apologized because my classes might have 25 or 30 students in them. And of course, I just was over the moon because I was going to have such a much more reduced workload with the students. Mm-hmm. I taught 1 year, and then did not sign a contract for the second year because I was expecting my first baby, but I did spend that year doing a lot of substitute work. And that's kind of really, my undergraduate degree was in English with a minor in education at Randolph-Macon, formerly Women's College. And so I did not go back. I ended up with an 18-year career at Grimes Memorial School, where I was an administrator. I was an occasional teacher at Grimes, but I started out doing volunteer work for them when my girls started there, and I was head of the PTA and raised a lot of money, and they offered me the job of development director. And so I took it and was then there and retired as assistant head after 18 years and loved every minute of it.
Development director is an important position.
Yeah. Raising money to pay the light bills. That's the money person. Right. And I've ended up doing development work for a lot of education is the thing I'm really interested in, and I've been on the boards of a number of other schools, and I'm usually involved in what their development aspects are. And then I've done the same thing for organizations here in town, Downtown Alliance and Center for Natural Capital and some other volunteer efforts. You get some expertise over time after you're involved in those kinds of projects. So that's what I like to do. It's very interesting when I'm talking to a group about undertaking fundraiser. People say, oh, I just couldn't possibly ask anybody for money. And I always say, what's the worst that'll happen? They'll say no, but almost never do they. And raising funds is all about relationships and doing the person-to-person thing to be successful. I'm involved right currently in what's going to be a very big fundraising project for Grimes School. the principles are the same. They don't change. It's about keeping in touch with your donors and them being informed about what you do and appealing to their particular philanthropic efforts. So we'll see.
50 years ago, there were a lot of retail businesses here in town,
There were.
and they aren't there anymore.
No.
What happened?
Shopping centers, primarily, I think. I can remember myself thinking how exciting it was when Barracks Road Shopping Center was built and you had all these stores in one place and it seemed kind of glamorous and you could get your lunch and, all that kind of thing. And I think that's a lot of what happened. Also, the Orange community has, in all that time, become more and more comprised of commuters who work elsewhere. And people who have to drive an hour or more to work tend to do their shopping at the other end. And I think that's a lot of what explained it.
And the automobile had a lot to do with that.
And the automobile had a lot to do with that.
And the internet.
Yeah, as it came along later, the internet, which, turned out in some respects to save us during COVID. I mean, I'm a person who didn't leave my house, literally, for over 2 years, basically. I'm in a high-risk group because of my age. And the fact that I could order online things that I would have had to go in person to get somewhere was a lifesaver. But, and I did pick up things from all the restaurants that offered them and any business that offered them where I could to shop locally. I'm a huge believer in shopping locally and using local service providers. But as I say, during COVID, it was a lifesaver to have that internet opportunity.
There's another aspect of COVID that I think has changed the paradigm, and that people realize that they could commute from home electronically,
Yeah,
and not have to deal with the traffic, not have to deal with the crowds. And this could play well for Orange because people could live here in the small town atmosphere and
Exactly.
still telework
exactly.
up in Northern Virginia, but not have to go there.
And not have to go there. I mean, you think of how much of your life you get back when you're not on the road 2 hours up and 2 hours back or more. I mean, that is an incredible opportunity. And it's going to be interesting to see how that works. The Commonwealth of Virginia has ordered workers back to the offices in a fairly arcane arrangement about who gets to stay home all of one day a week. So it'll be, I think, people discovered a lot about what was really meaningful and important to them when they were forced to be at home. And it's going to change everything about the workplace, I think, probably. I actually have a daughter who has worked for a California company for years from home. They have never cared where she lives. As it happens, she lives in Charlottesville. But she loves it. They love what she does. It's a happy situation. And I think there are a lot of people who figured out that and it gives you flexibility. I was talking with some friends about that the other day. One of the real things I think that rises to the top in all of this kind of business is, can you have flexibility? It's especially important for women who have children and for children who were not able to go to school for those couple of years. Being able to juggle doing what you have to do for them at home and then at your other hours, hopefully when everybody's asleep in bed or however you have to work it, to be able to do the job you're being paid to do.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
You spent some time on the Town Planning Commission, didn't you?
I'm still on the Town Planning Commission.
What are your plans?
At the moment, not much. We haven't had an issue that's come up before us for several months, actually. It's been very interesting. I've enjoyed it. It is not, you're bound by zoning ordinances and other kinds of ordinances. I mean, basically what a planning commission does is make sure that things that are going to happen, building-wise in particular, are going to meet all of the legal parameters, basically, that have been established by a community. So it's not a matter of whether you like it or you don't like it, or you think it looks nice or you don't think it looks nice. It's a matter of, does it meet various criteria? And development has slowed down amazingly during COVID. Home sales have not, but anything that would require the planning committee to review just hadn't been happening for the last number of months. It'll pick back up again, I feel sure. But, and inflation is going to have a lot to do with it, and supply chain is going to have a lot to do with it. People are just not willing to jump in and start building something at this point. So, and the Planning Commission does not make the decision. What we do is recommend to the town council approval or disapproval of a particular project.
What do you see in the future for the town of Orange?
We've had a lot of very interesting folks who've come into town over the last several years. They're buying up Main Street, and they're doing really innovative, creative things with the spaces. And that makes any town more vibrant and interesting. The wedding business is huge in Orange, which affects both the town and venues that are all over the county. So I think it's gonna, be an even better place to live in the next 50 years than the first 50 that I came. I'd like to credit Orange Downtown Alliance for a lot of that. I mean, that Main Street program has invaluable resources for small communities like ours. When we got accepted in the program, we were the smallest community they'd ever accredited. And I'd say it's paid off in spades. Just going down Main Street and seeing the transformation in what Main Street looks like is they get a lot of the credit for that. And they're interested in providing things for visitors to do, and there's just an awful lot of synergy now between the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Alliance, tourism, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Some of the other people that I've talked to on this Memories and Visions oral history have mentioned that more than 50% of the people in the town of Orange rent their housing. They do not own it.
Exactly. Which is not ideal for any number of reasons. People who are renting often know that it's for a very limited time, perhaps, that they're going to be doing it. And so I think they tend not to get as invested, in the governmental things and the volunteer things in your town. That's a concern. Various properties are being bought up strictly to serve as Airbnbs. The upside of that is, theoretically, you have an increase in lodging taxes, and those people have to dine somewhere and buy their gas and all that sort of thing. But on the other hand, again, those are not people who are invested in the future of your community particularly. So I do think it's concerning. And I don't know what will change that. I like nothing better than going someplace in downtown and basically not knowing anybody in the room. It's, I know it's new people. I know it's some people that I haven't had to stumble across in the last 50 years. That's all good for your town.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so. As I say, my husband and I chose Orange, And we're both ever so grateful we did. It was wonderful to be able to have our children grow up here. And one of my daughters, of course, who lives here, has lived here full time for a long time. And my grandchildren have been raised here. So gives me a lot of reason to be invested in what happens in Orange. And I've enjoyed basically every minute of it.